Okay, hello Juan. How are you today?
Hi. Oh, pretty good, pretty good. Almost there for the premiere.
Yeah, it's very exciting. Your movie is Punku is played at the Berlinale. So why don't you tell people about the vibe and the plot of this film?
Sure. Punku is actually a Quechua word for a gateway, and it's usually used for more of a mystical form, like a transition, no? So in some case, this goes along with the coming of age well, it's like a strange coming of age in my film, no? It's also like uh, it's about a boy that he disappears for a couple of years and is found by a teenager in the Amazon, Mesia, who brings him back to his hometown, to the city of Quillabamba, no? And there's a lot of mysteries around what happened to him. And yeah, well, the interesting thing is that my family is from Quillabamba, and I'm um, excited to show like a different way of showing these parts of Peru. No, it's like really deep in Cusco. Some people don't know that Cusco has a jungle. They usually think it's no more like mountains and no more like a cold environment. But actually, my family comes from a tropical zone, and it's like a melting pot between the Amazon and the Andes, no, which are two different cultures, with a lot of indigenous tradition, but also from elsewhere, no? And yeah, well, this film also talks a lot about mythology, the personal mythology and the collective mythology, and tries to avoid any kinds of exotism and to see the things from within. And yeah, well, I usually approach cinema from a critical point of view, but also like an immersive one, no? So it's like those two sides, no, of being like gonzo, no? I always try
Right. Yeah.
to become my characters, but
Jeez.
also to have like a critical perspective on film history, no? Especially coming from a country that is in the margins of film history, you know. But there is a lot of cultural tradition, and Cusco has a lot of um, painting tradition since the 1500s, like more in the official Western history, and also photography, indigenous photography, indigenous cinema, and especially which is mainly something that I research a lot and it influenced me, that is like the ancestral traditions in Latin America, in the Andes, in the Amazon, but also beyond, no? Because of course, like we are like a mix between different cultures, no? When we are like South America is kind of like a this immense island, no? In this part of the world, and we are kind of uh, influenced by so many cultures, and even our own DNA has experienced so many mixtures and syncretism. No, I really like the concept of syncretism, and especially, well, it's usually mentioned in a spiritual way, no, in a religious traditions. Like that's how the ancestral traditions in and beliefs of Peru survive through the colony, no? That is like or infiltrating the status quo beliefs and putting inside of that, no? But it goes both ways, no? Like, yeah, it's a really complex cultural history in Peru, and sometimes, to be faithful to this complexity, you have to dive into the chaos of contemporary culture in Peru.
Okay. Wow. That's a lot to chew on. I love it.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that there's mysticism in the film. And I certainly got that. I didn't understand everything, but I certainly felt like it was mystical. Would you describe yourself as a mystic?
Uh, Sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes, we have many layers, and sometimes I think that's something of the film talks about, though, no, about the different layers of identity, and it could have like a more of a psychological, you know, point of view, no, like psychoanalysis and stuff, but it's also lower more of yeah, mm, it's all about the hidden beliefs, no, the hidden, and sometimes these hidden beliefs are hidden due to survive the main the main narratives, no? The main narratives that dominate us. But yeah, I mean, there's some family in my family. There's some links with that, no? I think my great grandfather was a the Molero. The first Molero in Peru was uh, he was a priest in the mountains in Peru, and I think there's been this kind of more intuitive approach to the occult, no? But it's only that it's not only that, no. I think there's also this very material relationship with the space, and I've been living in Quillabamba for 4 years. No, I was raised in Lima, born in Lima, but with strong links to Quillabamba. And I think that the space is a really important character in my in my films in general. No, like these spaces change my perspective. No? That's why I think I usually change a lot between my films, like my style, or the external style. Uh, because I try to let this space talk to me, and to try to have this feedback relationship with not see it as a location, no, see it like a living being that is in dialogue with yourself. And if you kind of shoot in a way that the spontaneous can happen, and uh, that you have to adapt to what the space is telling you to do or not to do, then it's more of a dynamic relationship of film. It's not like I want to shoot this place. I like this landscape. Oh, it's so beautiful. Like usually Peru is seen as a landscape more like than a living culture, no? Or even like living culture is seen like a museum, no? Like it's not like an active culture that is evolving and expanding and gaining in complexity. And yeah, and it's hard to explain if you're
Well, I'm
not
having
from
fun
the
at
country.
least.
Yeah, it's hard to
I,
explain, but it's yeah, it's more of questions, no, than answers. What I look in
Well, I
cinema.
feel like you're like a shamanistic sort of character. You have this trance-inducing way of speaking, and it is very engaging. But were you caught off guard by things when you were shooting the film? Were there unforeseen challenges that you overcame? Tell me about some of the complexities of shooting the film.
Mhm. Um, yeah, well, I've been the first time I decided to do this film was in 2009. That the first idea, came. So it's been, and that was like the name, the maybe like the essence of the cinematographic treatment, and yeah, then it evolved, no, and this obsession with mythology. But then, like, been working on this film since 2017 with some budget, no, with development, and then so it's different, no, because the two previous films that I did were made with basically no budget, no, and now I made the leap to actually do for a film which is like a micro budget for the US or for Europe. For Peru is like an okay budget, no, uh, and working with institutions and so on. So I think one of the biggest risks were was to lose my essence, no? Like in the process of becoming more professional, was to or to no to get better at cinema, was to lose the essence of what worked before, no? And that made me enjoy doing films, no? And yeah, so that was one, but I that's why it took a long time, no, to try things, no, try teams. Maybe that team wasn't ideal, and I started to find my final form of a team. But I started, I mean, there's images of the film that I've shot since 2014. Some more like a hand process or more me learning even to shoot on film, no? Because I come from a strict video background, no? I'm like was faithful to video, and now I'm like appreciating each format in its essence, no? And yeah, so it's like 2014, 15, 17, 18. I've been like capturing just images with no real, idea what to do with it, but responding to this space, no? This physical space and this symbolic space too. And then in 2019, we started to be based on location already in pre-production. And the first scene of the film you'll see it was shot in 2019 when the character was 12 years old. And now he's coming to Berlin, and he's 18 now. So it's like since his whole teenage life has been linked to this idea of this movie, no? And yeah, so I changed the script too, because usually when I was trying and that's a kind of sometimes a problem, no? When you try to pitch a really locally based and personal and hermetic project like I was trying to do, how do you find financing from abroad? No, you have to. How do I make a foreigner understand what I want to do? No, and sometimes in that process you self-exotize your reality, and yeah, and even like, and I was trying to explain how can I explain Quillabamba to someone from outside, and I think I fell in a cliche of saying like in a stro in a that was my pitch before, no, in a small town between the Andes and the Amazon, the Quillabamba and so on, and then living there was like, no, it's actually that city, no. It's like Sin City. It can also be Sin City, even if it's a small town, no, because that perspective depends on where you stand, no. If I'm standing in the province of La Convención, which is where the whole film takes place, um, for someone that is from a native village, no, a native community, Quillabamba is that capital, no? It's that city where where things happen, no, and where you can like, live your zone of comfort, no. But it's yeah, it's not like a fixed thing, no. Nothing is fixed in Punku, if you have realized, no. It's like everything is in constant transmutation, no?
Okay. All right.
But yeah, that was one. But then, of course, like shooting in the jungle is a really complex. And if you see, like usually film shot in the Amazon are more naturalistic, are more they don't go so deep into fiction, no. And but what is fiction and what is it's complicated. But yeah, usually like these amazing spaces like the Amazon jungle and this place that is like it's not even really touristic, it's like hidden, no? It's hidden. It's yeah, it's not there's not any tourism there, basically, compared to other parts of Peru for the Amazon. And yeah, it's dangerous, of course, no? It's dangerous, you have risks. Like we've shot in El Pongo de Mainique, which is where the name of the film comes from, Pongo, which is actually a Spanish translation of Punku, no? And it's where Fitzcarraldo was shot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you remember the scene where the boat kind of crashes through these
Oh, yes.
rapids? Yeah, that's where we shot the
Oh
film.
my God.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, of course it's complicated. It's really hard even to think there, no? At 12 p.m. at noon, you're with this steamy heat, and in your head, and you're trying to make a movie there and to manage the classic stress of shooting, no? But then, of course, there was difficulties. No, COVID happened. It it happened right before we were about to shoot, and then I had to stop. And I actually decided to go deeper into my research on symbols and, other stuff that is, underneath the film. And it let me work for the first time with even storyboards and, just to have like a really in-depth conversation with the production designer, with the musician, with the DOP. We had like really, we didn't even discuss anything in shooting. We just uh, yeah, there was a natural flow between our ideas, no? And then we tried to shoot again in 2021, and the second wave of COVID came, and we had to stop again, and so on. And then we shot the film like in three parts, no? In 2019, we shot like some scenes, and 2021, 2022, and then came the whole editing process that has. I'm the editor too, so I had like a really long process of re rewriting in editing, no? And yeah, I think that was the hardest part, maybe. I mean, the whole film has been really hard to do, but especially because we were looking to find like really specific uh, aesthetic and narrative, no? To be faithful to the the idea of this film.
Okay. And tell me about your feelings or your mental state going into Berlin.
Well, we're excited, of course. A lot of the characters are my family members and my neighbors and my friends, and some of them are able to go to Berlin. We had sponsorship from the and support from the Peruvian embassy in Berlin, and this DAMA, which is a an authors association in Spain. And yeah, we're it's hard, no? Always to go all the way from Quillabamba to Berlin. But of course, we are excited to be at a section like Forum that they take a lot of care for their programming, and they've let us screen on 35 millimeters, which is like it's a dream come true, no? And actually, um, yeah, to go through these processes of digital analog, and trying to bridge the gap between them, no, that sometimes can be so distant, no, and and yeah, it's super exciting. I think well, I'm overworked. I've been working on the film, and I like to be present in many stage, of the film, in the design, in graphic design, I collaborate with a lot of people, and this is the first time that I've worked with so many hands and heads. No, usually there's a few people behind the scenes in my film, and there's a lot of characters or people that I work with in front of the camera. But this time, I can actually see like so many people that were so generous with the film and with me, with the patience on my kind. Sometimes I have some kind of obsessions, no, and I want this exact thing, and it's yeah, it's I'm excited to see this film that it's transitioning to at the same time as the characters in my film. The film is transitioning from this kind of womb that it's been like for 10 years almost to a screen, and to be shared with the world now. And I hope that the film opens up some questions, no, in how you see especially some parts of Peru or Latin America, and what is a Latin American film, especially, what is a Peruvian film, no? Usually, I had some conflicts with how sometimes it can be seen even by our own selves, no, how we see ourselves as filmmakers, no, and yeah, I hope the film helps to with this conversation, no.
Wow. Oh, all right. And who was your favorite director? If you had to pick one.
That's hard and easy. It's really hard because I'm kind of a nerd, super nerd of cinema. Uh, but it's easy right now because of what happened recently. So I would say David Lynch. I mean, I, it's yeah. It's undeniable. I mean, of course, I'm not trying to rip him off. I totally I think that when you really respect someone, you try to respect their space. And yeah, but this film wouldn't have been possible without his influence in not only as a because of his films, no, also thanks to well, I was really young when I read Catching the Big Fish, and I didn't only read it. I downloaded the the audiobook, no, with Lynch reading the text, and I was like 19 or something when I read that when I listened to that audiobook, and really helped me find a way, find a way into diving deep into the creative process and enjoying the yeah, like sometimes like a kid, no, like a kid enjoys how to play, and yeah, of course, Twin Peaks. And I mean, I've tried to develop like a dialogue with these movies that I love without it being dependent on understanding the film, or you don't have to watch any of those, but for me it was a pleasure to be able to talk with Buñuel, with David Lynch, with a Pichatong that also kind of gave me some tips on the process of editing, but also like talk with their films that once you are born in a place that doesn't have a film history like Quillabamba, you find your family or your resemblance elsewhere, no, and they make you feel at home. So I hope that at least for all the weirdos in Peru, in Quillabamba, or in faraway places that sometimes it's hard to not see yourself like in a mirror, no, like your reflection. So I think cinema is for that. Even if your reflection is more confusing than you imagine, I think it's important for that. So yeah, but of course, I'm I'm super grateful to Harmony Korine, to David Lynch, to Pichatong, Herzog, Carpenter. I can go forever. No, don't even let
Keep
me
going.
start it. No, I can go. Okay, I have a 50 filmmaker list, no? Sadie Benning, the James Benning's daughter. Uh, then Kenneth Anger, Stan Brakhage, Naomi Kawase, Lucrecia Martel, Ray Gadas, of course, that's no basic, but also like Luis Ospina, Carlos Mayolo, all the Cali group of filmmakers, Colombia, and also like the Cinema Marginal in Brazil was a big influence. Raúl Ruiz, the Chilean filmmaker, especially his book, The Poetics of Cinema. And in Peru, I'm very influenced by Armando Robles Godoy, who is our first film author, and that started to explore he called it the mysterious language of cinema, no? And he was active in the late 60s, 70s, and 80s, and he also played a lot with time, time in cinema and perspective. And yeah, I mean, I could go on forever, but
Yeah.
but
Thank you
I
for
love cinema.
giving. Yeah.
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 Mhm,
All right. So if you had to categorize your film, if you had to invent a
mhm,
subgenre to explain what it is, what would you call it?
mhm. I've been wondering that for quite some time. Hmm. Well, like I said, I don't know if I'm inventing a genre, but it is related to it. It goes to another place, no? It must be a subgenre of that. But the tropical gothic that Carlos Mayolo, because of course, if you go to Colombia and you see the landscapes that I'm portraying in Punku, you can feel this kind of, uh, conceptual contradiction, no? Of being Gothic and tropical at the same time, especially mm, considering the big heritage we have, the burden of magical realism, no? Then it can be also a complicated label sometimes when you are doing surrealistic work or that goes beyond the folkloric. But yeah, of course, Gothic tropical is a great. idea that didn't I didn't invented it. But yeah, and of course, I think people usually say it's like hybrid cinema. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, of course, I can also go to the safe spot of just saying it's just cinema, no? In
Oh,
its the subgenre genre of cinema, no? Because yeah, I think documentary, experimental, fiction answer to different states of the mind, and I think in Punko I try to capture those three layers and maybe a fourth one that we don't know how to call it.
maybe we'll find it out on the next film. Juan, thanks so much for your time. Do you want to make another movie in Peru?
Yeah, actually, Punku was an infinite film at one point. Like it was gonna have like a second part. It was gonna be a diptych, and but in the process, the two parts just drifted apart, and now they are like two different films. But yeah, like right now, I shot on the we call it Selva Alta, which is like high jungle. No, I think that's the exact translation that usually it's yeah between the Andes and the Amazon. That's where Punku takes place. But some scenes are shot on the low jungle, no, on the lowlands. And yeah, I think, and of course, like I shot this film thinking a lot of the river, no, the rhythms of the river, and that's why the rhythm of Punku is how it is, no, because that's how the river is, or the water. That's how the water flows in the high jungle, no, and goes from the waterfalls and then it goes on these, rapids and rocky stuff that, with a lot of what do you call it? Like uh, well, torbellino, we say like
Tornado?
swirls, no
Swir
swirls, like
Swirl. Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
yeah, swirls, and then you go back down, and then once you reach the lowlands, it goes, on this like deep, slow moving river that is like the Amazon River. So for my next film, I'm gonna go more on that kind of uh, dimension or river, no? Like more like deep, slow, and now it's more like all over the place. And also, yeah, it's also like yeah. I mean, I like to let the location define what kind of film I'm gonna make.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. It was a lot of fun talking to you today.
Yeah, thank you, and I love Thor Ragnarok. That's one of my favorite Marvel films.
Oh, yeah.
I saw your poster
Yeah,
behind
it's
you.
behind me. Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. Well, thank you
Well,
so
thank you
much.
very much, Michael.